Some things in video games, like AI that's as dumb as rocks, make people groan whenever they see them. But what about cliches that are actually good? The rules are similar to the worst cliche list. Trends have to be common, and they always put a smile on my face whenever I see them.
Number 10.
Pay attention to this. Don't get it? Let me explain. There's a grand list of RPG cliches on the internet, and the best one on it is Garretts Principle. It says that as the hero of the world, you have the right to go into anybody's house and take whatever you want. It makes sense, right? You paid hard-earned money for the game, you should have the right to everything in it. By the time I reached a video game where there was a law against stealing, it was too late. Garretts Principle had taken a hold of me. I took everything I could.
Number 9.
Call me crazy, but those video games that give you the feeling of extreme power without being invincible, I love it. I'm not just talking about swarms of weak enemies out to get you. I'm also talking about monsters that are 200 times your size and you're still able to topple them. The best example of this by far is the versus Saxon Hail mode in Team Fortress 2. I don't care if it's a fan-made mod. I find it impossible to play as Saxton using brute force without breaking into maniacal laughter.
Number 8.
Also called the White Mage due to the name in Final Fantasy, the medic can't do much on his or her own, and instead uses abilities that help teammates fight harder. Although commonly found in RPGs, they are also popular in team-based shooters. Medics can bring a whole new layer of strategy to any game they're in, and that's awesome.
Number 7.
If I told you DreamWorks worked on Sonic Unleashed, would you believe me?
This is an illusion. Unlike references which require the viewer to understand the original content in order to enjoy it, illusions work well on their own. Chrono Trigger is filled to the brim with illusions. A basic example is Ayla. In the Earth's Children book series, there is a character named Ayla who the author describes to look like her and was published almost 15 years before Chrono Trigger was released. But my all-time favorite is from Ocarina of Time, where Sheik says that the 7th sage is destined to rule them all. That's an amazing nod to Lord of the Rings. Or maybe I'm just overanalyzing all of this.
Number 6.
This is Speedy Egbert. Never heard of it? Well, it certainly is overlooked. It's a better than average platformer, but what I really remember it for is that it introduced me to custom level design. Most level makers that I've found in games are easy to use, fun to use, and are even more fun to play on. And here's a massive surprise, they add length to the games that they're in.
Number 5.
If I told you Pixar worked on Team Fortress 2, would you believe me?
Honey, where's my super suit?
I hereby declare war on peace and happiness!
You tell me where my suit is, woman!
As time moves forward, developers are pushing for more and more realistic graphics. But what people forget is that with today's technology, we can almost perfect different art styles. I mean, look at Wario Land Shake It. It looks like you're playing a cartoon, doesn't it? If the graphics have to be so realistic, I would go outside and do the actual thing myself.
Pow! Ha ha!
On second thought, I can see why some people like realistic graphics.
Number 4.
This is perhaps the best example for what a cliche really is. Many gamers take this for granted, and some don't even know that it was ever otherwise. This was the problem, and this is the solution. Temporary invincibility. It can be a little game-breaking, but it's a lot better than the alternative.
Number 3.
You. Yes, you. You suck at video games. Game over. A sign that you have to put more quarters in the machine or go back a considerable distance, and it's usually accompanied by a screen. Oh, but we're not talking about this game over screen, we're talking about this game over screen. When I was younger, I hated scary game over screens, but now I love them. They truly demonstrate that you screwed up. And yes, I could talk about how almost every single rare game has them, but there's two examples that need to be cited. In Indigo Prophecy, Lucas Kane indirectly murdered somebody. If you let his mental health deteriorate, he'll turn himself into the police. But what fun is that? Let's have him jump off buildings or go to the asylum. The other is Warhawk, the Red Mercury missions. Here's an example. The Warhawk plunges into the cold, dark water and plummets like a rock. 100 meters. The sea around you grows darker as you tumble into the depths. 200 meters. The cockpit groans and creaks under the building pressure. 300 meters. The canopy shatters and you are crushed instantly under the abyssal pressure. Your bones have long been scattered by the sharks when Creel crowns himself Emperor of the Wasteland. Kinda creepy, huh?
You're dead, your friends are dead, your family's dead, your fucking pets are being skinned alive, your mom's a fucking whore, you suck at life, the whole world hates you, you're going to hell, live with it. Game over.
Number 2.
I am a sucker for video games with alternate endings. And I'm not talking about like Bubble Bobble where it just gives you different text. I'm talking about the alternate endings pretty much pioneered by Chrono Trigger, where there actually is a significant difference. A borderline example of this is BioShock. The only difference in 2 of the endings is the tone the narrator uses to describe it. It's simple, and yet it completely changes the setting from the ending being a sad accident on the part of the protagonist into genocide. I could continue talking about alternate endings, but I think I got my point across, so here's an honorable mention. This is Snake, and this is Bill Overbeck. They both defy the stereotype that the elderly can't do anything. The old can have more experience than the young, and this should be explored more. However, these are the only 2 times in gaming where I've found old people to be awesome. Okay, EGAD is pretty cool too, but he doesn't do much. Enough talk about old people. It's time for
Number 1.
This is a loading screen. This one goes on for roughly 27 seconds. Isn't that boring? Let's show those loading screens who's the boss. Say it with me. Playable loading screens. For example, press X enough during the Okami loading screen and you'll get a Demon Fang. In Brawl, while waiting for an online match to start, you can practice your combos on a sandbag. Out of all of the cliches on this list, this one needs the least explanation, especially for those who have had to experience horrendous loading times. I'm GamingTopTen, and why yes, I do love Team Fortress 2 and Chrono Trigger. Thank you so much for asking.